also life-changing talk radio from the uplifting to the unexplained.
Give us a second.
News for the Soul is now in its 25th year of broadcasting. Tune in live or visit the archives at newsforthesoul.com. That's newsforthesoul.com.
Next on News for the Soul Radio, it's time for Purrrfectly Holistic with Pam. Pam is a cat mom and holistic health seeker who, after suffering an injury that wouldn't heal, was led on a journey to seek out alternative, holistic, and natural medicine. She now shares what she learned, helping people and their cats along their path to holistic health. Pam has taken courses in holistic health for animals, muscle testing, and animal communication. Please welcome Pam. Back to News for the Soul.
Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome back to the Purrrfectly Holistic Radio Show, and Happy New Year. This is our first time to get together since 2023 started. I hope everyone has had an awesome kickstart to a new year. So we have a special show for you guys tonight. I'm bringing back two of my favorite cohorts to talk about nutrition because they are very smart and good at what they do. And we had such great conversation last year when we were diving into pet food labels that we wanted to bring you guys some recommendations and some easy ways to improve your pet's nutrition and their diet just by changing some things that we do to their bowl. So that's why we call this show New Year, New Bowl. So we don't want you to feel overwhelmed. We want you to feel empowered with ideas to go home and try. So thank you guys. Thank you, Janet with Pupology and Brad from Steve's Real Food back in the house tonight. How are you guys? And what's going on?
I'm great. Hi, it's good to see you guys again.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you for bringing me back, Pam.
Absolutely. So, this is the time of year that a lot of people make New Year's resolutions. I don't do that because, I just don't get into resolutions, but I am very goal oriented. And I know Janet is very goal oriented as well. And Brad, you're shaking your head. So, I guess because we all are in sales, we're always goal oriented in some shape or form, right? So with that in mind, I think it's cool to have maybe an overall goal, pet health, personal goals, career health, whatever it might be, daily routines, way to improve our mental, emotional, spiritual well-being, if you will. So what are some of the things that we can talk about tonight to help these amazing pet parents some might be 2.0 pet parents who've been doing this for a while, and some might be like newbies just getting on this bandwagon of learning about how to make their pet's diet better for whatever, condition that they might be dealing with at this time. But that's what we're going to dive in tonight. So who wants to go first?
Brad.
Oh, yeah.
We're volunteering you.
Brad, I love listening to Brad, and I love taking his webinars. And I think it's been about 3 months since I had one of your webinars. So I'm here always as a student as well.
For sure. Well, yep. I'm now doing all of the public facing webinars for Steve's Real Food. And so you can always check out when the next one's coming up just on Steve's Real Food's Facebook page. We did skip December, I think, but we had some fun ones in November, and we have some awesome ones coming up, actually. I don't want to steal the show, so I'm not going to go into them too much, but I'm sure you've seen Power of Living Food. That one's fun, but we have a brand new one, which is enrichment, and enrichment circles right back to this conversation. Now, I know that we are all food focused, right? All of us are very nutritionally, very food focused. I certainly know that I am. And I fall into the trap sometimes of not really thinking outside the bowl. I'm just, I'm going to improve their life by feeding them the best food on the planet. But there are so many other pieces that go into living a healthy, happy, rich, amazing life. So I do have some great, things you can add to your bowl really easily. But I did just want to call out how important it is to, especially if you have a cat, cats are basically one step removed from wild, animals, apex hunters in their own, little area. They're just one step away from that. And so they still see your house very much as a jungle or a savanna. They still are very wild inside the way that they look around. And if every meal comes to them just in a bowl twice a day, they know when it's coming, they know where it's coming.
Yeah.
Pretty predictable.
Yes, absolutely. That right there is one of the best things you can do, is break it up a little bit, make it more interesting. It doesn't have to be their meals. You could make their meals a little bit smaller, and that gives you a little time to have some playtime with them, come up with some creative ideas. We do scavenger hunts for the dogs. You could very easily do those for cats too. Put some cat treats all up the cat tower. I have a friend who moves all of his feeding stations around. He'll have like 10 different feeding stations. And if the cat thinks he's headed to one, he dips over and goes to a different one. Now the cat's got this challenge. But, these are animals that are wired to they're wired to struggle for survival. And when there is no challenge, when there's never anything to overcome, then it's just, they get bored. They get bored. But
excellent.
We're here today to talk about the awesome things you can put inside their bowl, right? So I'm going to give you like 2 ideas for cats. And then I'll pass the microphone, because otherwise I'm just going to sit here and talk the whole night. That's not fair.
I'm taking notes. Are you kidding?
I know. Actually, yes.
All right. This is going to be
number 1 and number 2.
This is going to be a 4-hour session, guys. I hope everyone's ready. Yep.
I'm ready.
So one of the very first things that you can add back into a cat's bowl is hydration. I mean, that is the most important thing. Again, we think back to these hunters. They have not been in human care for very long. And we have not been serving them these dry foods for very long. And so their bodies don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
Cats are used to every single bite they would take would be raw meat. They're obligate carnivores. All they do is hunt. Every single bite they took would be raw meat. You're looking at 70 to 80% moisture with every single little bite. And then we get these dry kibbles that are 10%, these canned foods that are 60%, 70%. Some of them are up to 80%. But it's not this moisture in its original form. So one of the best things you can do for your cat is add any type of hydration to their bowl. Super duper important. They can live to be, oldest cat in the world was 38. You guys know that I love throwing out that statistic. And one of the reasons we don't see more cats getting even close to that is just this chronic daily battle with dehydration. So I'm actually going to pass the mic right there. I have another one queued up. Great idea to help those cats. But first, that's such a big point that I don't want to dilute it with anything else.
Well, let's talk about the types of hydration we can add. I like to add bone broth to my cat's food, and I mix it with maybe a little bit of water just to, so I can stretch out my bone broth a little bit more. But just adding a tablespoon or 2 of that to their meals, and you're boosting with collagen and with vitamins and minerals, and it's anti-inflammatory, and it's so nutritious for them. So, and it tastes good,
Yeah.
So most cats will take to that. Now I tell people this all the time: don't try it once, and if it's a flop, give up.
Yes.
You have to be creative, and you have to be persistent. Because remember, we're teaching them what food is. It's something totally new. They're like, what is that? I'm not going to touch that. That smells different, So you have to just get them used to stuff. They have a very strong sense of smell. So, I tell people just to be patient, be persistent, keep trying. And eventually things start to click in their little brains and like, that kind of smells good. I'll just take a little sip, and they're like, oh, okay, well, that was okay. That didn't hurt. I like that. Next time they might eat a little bit more. And then all of a sudden you're just like, can I have some more, please? You just have to give them time. Gina, what's another way that you love hydration?
Well, hydration, I agree with you on bone broth. And I think of two things that what you said. I think of Jay and Adrian, the two crazy cat ladies and friends of ours. And I remember them talking on an interview about how it took one of their mini cats I don't know if it was 6 months or 9 months to transition her or him to raw. And so we were at an event today, me and one of my team members, and we had the pleasure of talking to so many people about just different ways that we can incorporate whole foods into the diet. Because I think out of everybody we spoke to over the course of 3 hours, there was 2 people that fed raw.
Wow.
Out of everybody. And we made 50 goodie bags to give away, and we ran out. So that tells you how many people we spoke to. And I had one gentleman who asked me about raw, and so we talk about the moisture, and Brad is always really great about talking and touching on the intracellular moisture that is found in whole raw food for our dogs and cats. And so even backing up to the type of food that is in the bowl can add hydration. And we know the more whole the food, the more intracellular moisture. And Brad, thank you for that. I learned that from you when I was learning about Steve's Real Food. But the bone broth is excellent. And we also love goat milk. Just, raw, unpasteurized, beautiful goat milk. And, they have it just plain goat milk. You can get it with pumpkin for added help with digestive issues. You can get it in a blueberry formulation to help as an antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. You can get the one with greens, which is a super immune booster. But goat milk, as a rule, what many pet parents don't realize is that dairy is not ideal for pets. It's not ideal for mammals.
No.
Ourselves included. And if you're lactose intolerant, there's a reason, right? Okay. Yeah. Same here.
Right.
And so there's a reason.
It's a bummer, but yeah.
But that's the way it is. And so, the lactose free, it lacks the enzyme that causes the congestion that comes with dairy milk, and dairy milk is very inflammatory. Goat milk, on the other hand, is anti-inflammatory. So we have a dog with digestive issues. I would challenge our pet parents, and I do this in the store all the time, about let's look at that ingredient panel. And I believe that's what got us 3 started on this, part 2. Was just talking about examining ingredient panels. But look at the ingredient panel, make sure we don't have any, dairy in there that's going to be inflammatory, especially, digestive issues, allergies, same thing, inflammation of joints, very connected. So I love bone broth. I love goat milk, filtered water. I will never forget Dr. Karen Becker interviewed a water expert. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm really sitting here on YouTube listening to this interview with the water expert. But I was so glad I did, because his wife had cancer, and he was talking about the importance of filtered water. And we're talking about reverse osmosis is ideal. Even distilled water. If you have a dog that's, dealing with cancer, distilled water is healthier. But reverse osmosis, which many people have, or at least filtered water. And then most recently, what I learned from Dr. Judy Morgan is the beauty of coconut water. I don't know if y'all seen that lately, but just plain unadulterated coconut water. It is super hydrating. It's filled with electrolytes to help with dehydration. And so I haven't tried it yet. I'm excited to try it with the Pup Squad, and I think that they're going to love it. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah, coconut water is amazing. I actually use it in my garden as well.
Oh, wow.
Amazing for animals, amazing for plants, amazing for the soil. I always say I'm not a gardener. I grow amazing soil ecosystems, and then those do all the work for me. Those grow the plants for me.
That's smart.
And coconut water. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
You dilute it?
What?
I'm like thinking, okay, do you dilute it for your garden?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll freeze it in an ice cube tray. I'll
Yeah.
toss in an ice cube to maybe a gallon of water or something. Yeah,
Okay.
it's very heavily diluted.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I'm going to steal that too.
And then what you were saying too about it takes time with certain pets. Not every pet may take to your ideas that you're trying all at once or at the same time, or even the first or second or third time. And I was talking with Harley at the shop, and she was saying that her newest kitty is refusing to eat raw. And so she has the best interest there, but I said, just keep trying. And she goes, I've put it on his nose, I've put it on his paw, I've hidden it, and he just isn't taking to it. So I think it was Dr. Becker and Rodney in their book, The Forever Dog. I think that they said, try it and decide if it's a hit. And if it's not, then put it on the list to try again later. And I think that that's very astute that we do that.
Yeah, be persistent, but don't make it stressful. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't need to force it. It doesn't have to happen today. They've got a whole lifetime of healthy eating ahead of them. Just keep working at it. Don't give up, guys. Cats can be so hard. They're biologically programmed to be very, very careful about what they choose to eat because they had to kill each one of their meals. So if they made the wrong choice one day, that's it. That's the end. And they're hunting 15, 20 times a day. So if it was trial and error, no cat would make it past day 30. I mean, that's probably 1,000 different opportunities for them to jump on the wrong animal. So yeah, they had to be very, very cautious about what it was that they ate.
That's a good point.
Dogs did not. They could just they can just find something laying by the side of the road, scarf it down. If it's the wrong thing, they'll throw it up in 10 minutes and call it a day. They're fine. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's go back to Brad. Your first recommendation was hydration. What is your second one that we can build on here?
So my second recommendation for cats, and this one is really important for every cat out there, is hydration. I mean, come on, that point is obviously worth mentioning twice. I did just want to hit on it one more time, though. You can add more moisture to wet foods.
Yeah,
raw foods, wet foods, you can add more to them. It's fine. You're not going to, they're at a very ideal level, but you absolutely can add more, especially if your cat gets some dry treats throughout the day.
Yep.
Which is what I was going to mention next.
Yes, I cannot wait.
Yeah. So fermented foods are we eat fermented foods every day. They are so nourishing for our microbiome, our gut bacteria, our body as a whole. They take nutrients that are already available in the foods and make them available to absorb when you ferment it.
Right.
And it is a very natural diet for a lot of animals. A lot of animals in the wild eat fermented foods on their own every day. They may eat a little bit of gut content. They may eat some poop. In the case of dogs, they could eat a whole lot of poop. But right, it's gross. Yeah, absolutely. But it is an ancestral part of their diet for a darn good reason.
Yeah. There's nutrients in that poop.
There's nutrients in it, but also it grows the flora, it grows all of the microbes in your body and makes you more able to absorb things down the road. So it makes you stronger tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And so feeding some fermented organic vegetables or herbs to your cat, awesome. Now, good luck getting them to do it, right?
So we got to come up with a way.
That's where the protein bites are really shining. So I was excited out of my mind about these for my dogs. Right before these came out, one of my dogs had a round of antibiotics, and he's older. And so he actually had to go through a few rounds before the surgical site healed up. And these really, really helped him get back on track. But for cats, this has been an amazing way to get organic fermented herbs and produce get them to eat it. Because otherwise, you put a little scoop of fermented cabbage on their bowl, they're going to say, nah, no, sir. Nope, not going to happen.
Right. Tell people what that is you were holding up.
Absolutely. Yep.
Jay's over here. Jay Kennedy's here. She's like, what is this? We got to try it.
Right. Yeah. So these are the new treats from Steve's Real Food. And these are not just Steve's Real Food. We actually collaborated with this awesome company called Gussie's Gut. So Gussie's Gut was started by a great guy named Rob Ryan. And he's really into fermentation for health. What his company does is it creates fermented organic superfoods that you can sprinkle onto any diet. And those are really made for dogs. And you just sprinkle it on a cat's food, and there's a good chance, weird. Yeah. But they're just absolute masters of fermentation, and they're doing it differently than anyone else in the industry. And that's why we partnered up with them. We were so excited to be part of it. But these guys are also, Rob actually works side by side with Dr. Ian Billinghurst. So cool. Right. Absolutely. He wrote, Give Your Dog a Bone, right back there at the end of at the beginning of the 90s, I think.
Wow.
And that actually kind of laid the groundwork for raw foods as we know them today, for the shape and form that they've taken. He's credited as being the father of raw. So super cool guy. I have an interview with him tomorrow night on the Facebook, on the Steve's Facebook page. So if anyone's interested, feel free to check that out, guys. That is 7:00 Eastern. Rob Ryan and Dr. Ian Billinghurst will both be joining me. We'll be talking about the protein bites and all that. I got off track. You asked me what protein bites were, and I gave you a biography on the two guys who are involved.
And you were talking about fermentation.
Let me back up. Yeah.
Can cats have sauerkraut like dogs can? I don't know the answer to that, obviously.
Good luck getting them to eat it. I don't see why not. Sauerkraut is actually an awesome source of all sorts of probiotics. There's so many probiotics. It is so incredibly rich. In just like a quarter of a teaspoon, you're getting so much good bacteria. For the most part, unless you have a specific reason and you need a specific probiotic, rather than buying one of those bottles that says probiotic and costs $40, I would recommend just grabbing a jar of sauerkraut and giving your dog a little bit of that every day.
Yeah, maybe puree it really good. And if you have a cat,
you might be able to sneak it into a cat food, or just kind of mush it around in there, just a tiny, tiny little bit. I mean, there's a lot of bacteria in there. And if they're eating a very processed food, there's not going to be any beneficial bacteria in their food.
No.
I mean, there might be a little bit, but you're not going to get a whole ton. But to circle back to these for the final time, these are 80% meat, and I'm hoping this isn't backwards. It is on my screen.
It's not backwards.
Awesome. So these are 80% meat. This one is chicken. We also do lamb, and we're using the same awesome human grade, super high quality meats that are going into the Steve's food. And then there's this whole list of organic fermented superfoods, collard greens, green apple, ginger, fennel, carrot, all of this really super awesome stuff. And it is designed, the whole recipe is designed very deliberately to boost digestion, to improve the microbiome, and for its calming effects as well. So this stuff is just absolutely amazing. But this has proven a great way to get these nutrients into cats' lives, because cats are really loving this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice, small. They're freeze-dried treats, and so you can always take them and sprinkle them onto some wet food or something. But the size is you can see it's very small, very cat-friendly, very soft.
Nice. Right.
So.
That's awesome.
Yep, these are absolutely awesome. So, if you had asked me 3 months ago, I would have said some other type of fermented food. But now we've got so many awesome fermented organic superfoods in one little place. So I have to go with those as my next selection for sprucing up a cat's bowl. Absolutely.
Yeah. What else you got, Janet?
Sardines.
That was on my list too.
Oh, it was on all of our lists. It was.
So if you can see the stack of wild caught packed in water, y'all, sardines that are in our pantry, you would laugh. And I think people, when they look at us, I do buy mine at the natural grocers, and we buy stacks of them, because we used to do Sardines Saturday. And now we do that at least 3 times a week, where we'll take a couple of cans and dump them, in the dog's bowls. But they are one of Dr. Becker's. I keep mentioning her because, we all love her, and Rodney. Big shout out to them. And, I know we're all thankful for everything they've contributed and are continuing to do so to the pet world. But they have it listed as one of their number one powerful protein. And I couldn't agree more. Even I do a krill supplement, but sardines are huge. And omega-3 fatty acids, I can never remember my list, so I wrote it down. Vitamin D packed with vitamin B12. And it's one of the foods that is critical. There's a study in the Forever Dog book where they talk about sardines being one of the longevity foods in this one, area in the world. And, I don't know that you can overdose on all that, but it says key longevity factors. If you're going to give it, they suggest about 3 times a week. And it's only 1 sardine per 20 pounds.
So it's not that much.
It's not. So,
and, I have to tell you, most cats love sardines.
Do they?
They do. Most cats who like seafood end up loving sardines. And, at some point we can be so overwhelming to our cats with their supplements. It's like, have some food with your supplements, just like we can do it with dogs. Too, but
yes.
Very, if you put too much in their food, they can become food averse. So that's why whenever I can find a whole food option instead of a supplement, I tell people, try this. And sardines is always one of those things because it is so packed with so much nutrition and so much goodness, and for cats, they like it.
And as fish go, they're low on contaminants as well. I think that's important to mention. Yeah, it's not like tuna or any of these, the bigger fish that are full of mercury, because they're such small fish, and because of how short their lifespan is. Basically, they're just not accruing the same toxins that a lot of other fish.
Yep. I think your dogs want some sardines, Janet.
I think Daddy's. It's like I told him to go to the backyard because I'm on air, but I don't know. They're over there. So,
on Sardine Saturday, do you eat the sardines as well? Do you and her husband?
I do not.
Okay.
No, and you know what? I know how good they are for us. I cannot bring myself to do it. I can't even bring myself to throw one on a pizza and bake it. I don't know. Do y'all eat them?
I do. Yeah. I used to a lot, at least once a week, usually twice a week. That would be part of my lunch, would just be a can of sardines.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And I'd walk right out and be talking to customers. Hey, how's it going?
Cut the onions and cut the sardines at lunch. Have you had them, Pam?
I have tasted them, but it's not on my regular menu.
No.
I do prefer the ones in olive oil. Just but for straight out of the can, they're tasty.
For cats, don't get the ones in oil. Get the ones in water, please.
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
And some of the good stuff actually ends up in the water. So if you can get some without sodium added to it, without a lot of additives, if it's just sardines and water, adding some of that water, great place to start. And some of the amino acids and other things are water soluble. And so they're kind of coming out of the fish and being suspended there in the water.
That's a great
Chacha Bear.
Yep. All right. So what else do you guys have on your top recommendations for food?
So this one I do for dogs. You could absolutely do this for cats too. You'd probably just have to toss them in a blender first, or maybe you'd be able to dice them up real fine or something and put them on their food. But what I'll do is I'll do my own sprouts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great source of enzymes, great source of all sorts of different micronutrients. They are just absolutely amazing. And so I get this big 1/2-gallon jar with a mesh lid on it. I just fill it with seeds and get them wet. And every day I rinse it off and turn it upside down so they get some air circulation. And within a couple of days, you have some beautiful sprouts in there.
Wow.
And then everybody gets them. You know, they go to the dogs, they go to the chickens. We eat them too. I mean,
yeah.
So they're absolutely fantastic for you.
They are super high, like for immune support. Like I've heard for cancer prevention and antioxidants. Correct? Am I on the right track here? So they're just power packed with nutrition. And if you want to feed them to your cat, I would say mince them really fine and just mix them into the food, and maybe they won't notice because they don't really have much of a taste.
Right. They're very inert, very neutral.
Yeah. So that might be a really good way to kind of spruce up your cat's bowl.
They're great on a sandwich. Nice little crunch.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Gina, what's up?
Next, I don't do sprouts. You always talk about sprouts, Brad, and then we get off of here and I forget. I need to write that on my list. They're so easy.
Cool. You can get a great big bag of seeds for nothing. And they're so easy to grow. Turnaround time is so quick and they're so beneficial. Again, that's something else I use in my garden for my soil as well, because they're so rich in enzymes. They help break down and free up some of the nutrients in the soils too. So.
Do you put coconut water on your sprouts?
I don't. No, I haven't done that yet. Now it sounds like a tasty treat now that you say it. Though. It does. Refreshing. Yeah.
But mine, I actually wrote down 2 others, and if we get there, because you usually chat, always have good chats. But eggs, I'm a big huge fan of eggs. Just like the stack of sardines.
Yeah,
we buy farm fresh. You know, we try to buy from our, the local people, either at the farmer's market or friends that have chickens and sell their eggs. If not, we're always, culling through those at the grocery store to look for grass-fed and pasture-raised, vegetarian-fed. But I like them because, 70 to 80 calories per egg. And, if for somebody who's trying to... In my store, again, coming from the retailer perspective, they're always like, well, okay, I know I need to feed my dog 400 calories a day or 400 calories per meal. And so how do I do that? And believe it or not, I mean, it is a struggle to try to figure that out for some people, because we're just so programmed to feed a certain way. And we're trying to get people to think outside the box. And an egg, you just... Of course, divide, if a cup of food's 400 calories, cut it by a quarter, or maybe not quite a quarter, and then throw in an egg. But, an egg is almost the perfect amino acid, profile. It is, biologically speaking, it is so well matched to a dog's needs, again, according to Dr. Becker and Rodney, that it is something that is in our squad's bowls several times a week, just like the sardines. And it said, whenever I'm reading about eggs, is several times a week is okay. One of the things that I do, other than vitamins and minerals and healthy fats, protein density, they contain choline, natural source of choline, which if you aren't aware of choline, it's for your central nervous system. If you think about that, I take choline. It's for brain function. My holistic practitioner has me on choline, and I thought it was something completely different. And then I, came home with it and read about it, and I was like, that makes sense. So I think for just, tip to tail, an egg is an easy thing. You've got it in your refrigerator. And what's nice is they can have it raw. I would say sidebar, if you're nervous about pathogens or whatnot, maybe just scramble it. Don't scramble it in butter, but you can have it raw, poached, hard boiled. Mine love it hard boiled. But most of the time we will drop it in raw with half of an eggshell, or we will lightly scramble it or hard boiled. Those are, and scrambled would probably be third on our list. I prefer to do it raw and hard boiled.
Yeah.
And they love it. And I want to back up to sardines, because Brad was talking about, stimulating cats by feeding them in different areas so that they kind of have to stalk their prey. With the sardines, we use sardines as, minnows as treats. We sell those in the store like crazy. They're less than half a calorie per treat, and little dogs, just cut them in half. Your big dogs, they love them. They can't get enough of them, but they're so much fun to throw in a shag carpet, or if, like us, we throw them in the grass. And then to see the Chewini, Eli, going after them, it is hilarious, because his snout is on overdrive, and and he's got his nose down in the grass and just on the scent like he does. But it engages them mentally, and it gives them some physical exercise as well, and a half-calorie treat. As you know, when it comes to feeding, we don't want treats to surpass 10% of their caloric intake for the day, and that adds up.
Yes. Yeah, I used to take a bag of minnows out in the yard, and I'd yell "tropical storm" and pretend, and throw all the little fish everywhere. We had fun. We used to have fun in the old days. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, those minnows are great. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. I want to go back to eggs for a second. For cats, the egg yolk, dehydrated egg yolk, or if you hard boil the egg and take the egg yolk, it is so good for cats, especially cats with like IBD, IBS issues, gastrointestinal things, for hair. It helps with hair balls. And of course, it's got all the B vitamins for energy and things like that. But it is such a good addition to just mix in a quarter teaspoon several times a week, just for something, just for added bonus, kind of a superfood for cats.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. Yeah. We actually make a supplement, and a topper, really. It's called Eggs Over Easy, and it's just freeze-dried eggs mixed with freeze-dried pork heart. But it's such an easy way to get eggs into your pet's life. If you don't feel like doing any work or anything, it's just, you just sprinkle it over. You can do a little bit, you could do a lot, whatever you want. But yeah, I love eggs. We have chickens. The dogs go crazy every time they think that we're going to the chicken coop to put them to bed. Chuck has to go out there with them, even though it's winter, and they haven't been laying for, I don't know, maybe a month now. He still goes out there and is very expectant every single time. Where's my egg? I know I'm getting an egg. So he'll be hopping around and jumping. But
I have a question about eggs for cats.
Yeah.
Because we have duck eggs, we have quail eggs, chicken eggs. Is it true also okay for cats?
Sure.
All of those?
Yeah, any of those egg yolks are going to be fine too.
Okay.
It's just a superfood. It's awesome.
It is. And I like that you said it's for IBD and hairballs.
Yeah.
Excellent to know. I took that note. I'm going to share that with the team.
Yes. I learned that from the gal who is the owner of Food for Life. Who makes the Easy Complete premix that you can mix into the homemade food, which they have their own freeze-dried egg yolk in a bag. It's powdered, just dehydrated, not freeze-dried. It's dehydrated egg yolk. So yeah, it's awesome. Just sprinkle a little bit of that in the food a few times a week as a little extra. It's great. And she has a lot of experience with cats with IBD and healing from those kind of bowel diseases, and it's great for hairballs, support, things like that. So yeah.
Learn something new every day.
So do I. That's the goal.
Honestly, right? Okay, what about some more superfoods? Or what's on your list?
I got kelp.
I do too.
I love kelp. Yeah, it's funny how we have all the same things written down. I mean, this is all great stuff, and I hope folks watching are picking up some new things because, again, we everything we call out. Oh yeah, I had that. We should have just played superfood bingo, man.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
But yeah, kelp is so awesome. It's a vegetable, lives under the ocean. It collects so many different micronutrients, over like 70 micronutrients that you need for optimal health. It collects them in fantastic ratios. It is so good for you. It's so good for your dogs, for your cats. I'll take kelp and spread it over my garden. Again, I'm going back outside with this. I put it back in the garden, of course, feed all those beautiful micronutrients to my soil, as well as you get some great plant hormones out of it too. But again, really good, very nourishing. And then it enriches my vegetables, which I then bring inside, and I get all the richness and beautiful micronutrients from that as well.
Shopping at your farmer's market.
I absolutely love kelp.
Market.
I go down to the local farm store and I get kelp, organic sun-dried kelp in a big 50-pound bag. And that lasts me, a couple of years probably.
Wow.
Let me ask you a question about the kelp, because I know a lot of the raw or freeze-dried brands will use kelp for sources of iodine and trace minerals and things like that in their foods. Now for cats, we have to be careful because cats with the thyroid issues, they can't have too much iodine. So sometimes the kelp is like maybe not adding.
With kelp, you want to be sure you're doing small amounts, either for dogs or cats. That's not an everyday thing usually either.
Not a lot.
Yeah,
I've heard because it is a natural form, because it's not a synthetic form of iodine, the animal can be more selective about absorption with it.
Perfect.
But still, definitely don't go overboard with kelp.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
that's a good point. So like Mitzi is right around 15 pounds and she gets a quarter of a teaspoon once a day. And whereas, our 70-pound Australian Shepherds, they get a teaspoon a day. So for dogs, it's, good stuff. I like broccoli on your, mentioning more greens. Broccoli is always, and so again, when we were talking to people about the radio show, we're talking about ways that you can add nutrition to the bowl. I think about, going into your refrigerator and you probably have broccoli and asparagus and zucchini and lettuce, even Brussels sprouts. Yes. Cantaloupe, cherry tomatoes. These are all things that can be added to, your pet's bowl. And I'm dog centric. You're going to have to speak to, any of that wouldn't be advisable for kitties, but, and then mushrooms and strawberries. We've been on this cancer fighting journey for the past 6 months or so. And I've seen, even with everything that we were doing right before, even since doing research with that diagnosis and even tweaking Hank's diet more and adding mushrooms, adding more strawberries, these are excellent toppers and snacks, for any pet or any dog, but one's fighting cancer as well. And, on the rule on mushrooms, if it's safe for us to eat, it's safe for your pet to eat. And I believe that it was about an eighth to a quarter cup per day. And again, I'm quoting this from Dr. Becker and Rodney's book, The Forever Dog. An eighth to a quarter cup a day has studies that have shown the positive impact it has on cancer prevention.
That's for dogs.
For dogs.
Are they adding raw mushroom?
Say again, you cut out.
Oh, are they adding raw mushroom, or are you cooking it somehow?
It's raw.
Raw?
Yeah. Okay. And we were, I think, Pam, you might have been there. Rita Hogan was talking about doing the infusions. And, for example, with lung cancer, chaga mushroom is very potent and has positive effects on that. And one way to do it is to feed that, chopped up raw in the food, but also doing the infusions. Yeah. Yep. There's all kinds of research on that.
Oh, absolutely. Mushrooms are the future of medicine. Yeah, absolutely.
They're amazing.
I take mine every morning.
I do too. I take turkey tail for overall immunity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so does Hank.
Mhm.
Yes.
I do. I take lion's mane for some focus.
Yeah.
I need help with
Brain.
that.
Brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And I've
And
noticed
for
a
all
big
the
difference.
cat people out there who are wondering about mushrooms for their cats, it's excellent. Now we know that our cats they would not typically select mushrooms on their own. That said, you may just want to go with a supplement form because it's what's the word? It's condensed into such a small potent a dose or amount that it can give you your maximum benefit versus having to feed a lot of whole food mushrooms, which they're probably not going to want. That said, if you took like some specialty mushrooms like your chaga or your reishi or your lion's mane or something like that, and diced up a little tiny bit and mix it in with some bone broth or something, they might eat it that way.
Mhm.
Or you could just go with the supplement and make it easy. But they are so amazing for pets' health, for sure. Yeah, the mushrooms are on one of my go-tos for sure for people who, especially if you have an older pet that's showing some cognitive decline, or if your cat or dog is having some kind of an immune system challenge. It's just great support they're so high in nutrients and antioxidants and the beta glucans, and they also provide a form of prebiotic fiber. They feed the microbiome. They just have so many benefits.
Yep. Incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
My local supermarket just started carrying a few different varieties that I haven't, because I'm buying out their mushroom shelves. I mean, it's exhausting. Just there's only a few varieties there, and they just expanded. I am just out of my mind excited. That's the next frontier for me, is growing like fancy culinary mushrooms at home.
Mm-hmm.
That's, that's 2023. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
So one more note on mushrooms. I mean, just even a simple button mushroom, because that can be found at any HEB or Aldi or wherever you shop. But a button mushroom, you can start there and just chop it up fine as can be, and 1/8 to 1/4 of a cup every day.
Absolutely.
Well, that's awesome. That's something I have not been giving to my dog. I mean, I did give them like a dehydrated mushroom powder many times in the past. But seeing how many mushrooms I eat and how much of my food, as I'm prepping it, goes onto the floor, I'll toss Chuck a great big piece of kale or something like that. I'm going to start tossing them a mushroom, see what happens. It'll be fun.
And Brussels sprouts.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Love Brussels tiny cabbages. Yeah,
tiny cabbages.
Right. Yeah, they love those.
Peppers.
Exactly.
Bell pepper, red pepper. Those are great antioxidants as well.
Yeah.
I like to do a pumpkin around the season. We grow all sorts of different sizes of pumpkins, and so I end up with some nice, very moderately sized pie pumpkins, some good small ones. I'll toss one over the garden wall to the dogs, and Chuck will eat a piece of it. He'll have fun just gnawing on it. He'll eat some. He'll just chew some. He has a great time, and then the chickens come around and finish it off. That's a fun one too.
That's awesome. And I love putting like the pureed veggies into the cat's food for a source of prebiotic fiber, or your green leafies.
Awesome.
If you mince that really, really good. Even things like some dandelion, just coconut oil is another good one for cats. Yeah. Some cats like the taste, some don't, but you can even try the coconut chips. You can add a little bit of that, just a little bit, just to try, and then, for cats, being cats and being the finicky things that they are, they don't necessarily go seek out vegetables. So if you're a cat parent looking at a simple way to improve your cat's bowl, add some freeze-dried poppers. It's simple. It's
organ meat.
Yeah, organ meat.
That's what you're talking about.
Just, you could do a Steve's Quest, a freeze-dried food. You can use it as a topper instead, because freeze-dried is more expensive. But you could take
there you go.
That's actually what I would do, because then you get those beautiful fermented veggies too. All these vegetables we talked about, if you give them to cats in the fermented form, they become a lot more valuable. They can get more out of them. Yeah.
But just a single ingredient freeze-dried meat,
Yeah.
whitefish, liver, a liver,
Heart.
heart.
Yeah. Hearts are amazing.
Exactly.
There's a little
Freeze-dried chicken, something that's made from whole food ingredients, that's high quality, great nutrition. Maybe you can't afford to feed a raw diet, but you can afford to buy a bag of these really good quality treats to use as toppers, just to add something beneficial to the bowl.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to be perfect.
No.
By any means. Just once a
Something.
month, grab something new, mash it up on top of the food.
See, now you said once a month, and I was going to say just something a little different every day.
Well, yeah, but if we work with everything in our fridge and then we go to Janet's store and we buy something new every month, every time we get a bag of food, we try a different treat. Now we're getting some variety in there.
Yeah.
But that going back to the top of the show when you were talking about New Year's resolutions, Pam, and your thoughts there. And I typically don't do them either, but I think for us and the dogs, Chris is over here making green beans with our dinner. And so we will share the green beans with the dogs. And one thing that has helped me is that as I have learned more about their nutritional needs, it has taught me about my nutritional needs, and as my effort to want to do better by them, and to have them just as healthy as possible for as long as possible, it is kind of come back around to Chris and I. So we're trying to get more fresh foods into our own diet because we want to do the same for them. And so in doing it for them, we are now doing it for ourselves.
Yes.
And so
I found myself falling into the exact same thing. It was so funny because I spend all my time educating people about fresh foods, or coming up with different educational materials, or that's what I do. And then I would sit there and I'd be eating toast with jam for breakfast, and for lunch I'd have some kind of a burger or something like that, or a pizza, or I'd just be eating processed food. It all looks the same to the microbes, just for every single meal. And it occurred to me a couple months ago where I was like, what the heck am I doing? I just gotten lazy and off track. And so now it's just like all fresh foods most of the day. And man, I feel absolutely amazing. I started that right around January. And so right around the beginning of the year.
Difference. Yeah,
absolutely.
Brad, we have a question from Sandy. She says, can you give the dilution on the coconut water?
I'm not.
Oh, that's hi, Sandy.
Or
is it like about for dogs or for cats?
1-to-4 ratio, or like a tablespoon, and then the rest of it's the water. I mean, what do you typically do? Just to
for my dogs, I'll just give it to them straight usually, because I'm just giving them a little bit. I'll just give them a tablespoon or two. Yeah, absolutely. So so I don't usually dilute it for my dogs, but they're diluting it themselves because they'll drink that tablespoon or two of coconut water, then they'll go over and drink some water from their bowl. But they'll process it a lot like you or me, where we can drink coconut water, we could drink half a glass of it and be fine. We could drink 3/4 of a glass and maybe have to go to the bathroom after. So
yeah, exactly.
I would just start small.
Yeah. And I just want to remind people that we're giving you all these ideas, but don't feel like you have to go do them all. So pick one. Don't overwhelm yourself. Pick one and try that. See how it goes. And then choose something else and start just one thing at a time so that you don't feel like you're obligated to do all of these things. The last thing we want you to do is feel overwhelmed when it comes to feeding your pets and trying to improve their diet. So, just be mindful of how you are feeling about the change and trying something different, and just be patient. And again, you don't have to do it every day, but like you said, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, throw something in, make mealtime more interesting for them, and just broaden their palate a little bit. You're throwing in some great nutrition and some superfoods and, all these wonderful things that are going to be beneficial to them long term. So we just have to keep the big picture in mind, as we go forward. But
and that's a great point, because if you're doing a whole bunch of things at the same time and you end up with some stomach upset, you have no clue what was the cause. You have no you have to start from scratch and figure out what on earth did that on the rug.
Yeah.
So you're adding these things in until you know your animals. Like with Chuck, I could throw the kitchen sink at him. He's fine, no problems.
Yeah.
But as you're working up to this, we've been working on him for years. So as you're working up to this, take your time.
I think that putting like one section, like in our refrigerator, we have one section where it's, the Pup Squad section. And so we have berries in there right now, raspberries and blueberries and blackberries, and they're just in a container. We also have the eggs that I was mentioning. We have hard-boiled eggs, and we have mini carrots. And so this week, that's, we're rotating that in. And of course, the stack of sardines. But since Sandy is watching, I know we've had some gut issues with Turpie, and in my research, I was looking for things that were specific for gut. Some options were kiwi, apples, and I would, without the peel, papaya, green bananas, make sure they're, not ripe, and asparagus. So that might be a great, place to start when you go to the store. Get a kiwi, get an apple, get a papaya, and that's your little section, and cut them all up so that, food prepping, and then put in a tablespoon at mealtime.
That's awesome. I cannot believe we are out of time. This has been so much fun. But we got through a lot. So I hope we left you guys with lots of great ideas. I hope you are inspired to give your pet a new bowl in some shape, some way, shape, or form this year, and just try, and be persistent. And know that your pets will thank you later, because they will be healthier and they'll be happier. So anyway,
yes.
Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Janet, for being here. Thank you for sharing your wonderful insight and knowledge. And I'm sure we will revisit again at some point soon. But until then, all of you guys, thank you for joining us tonight, and have a great rest of your evening. And we will see you next month for a Q&A.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.